Amen.
Black Friday's extended.
Look at this black brother with a championship and it's gone. Look at this big black brother with a championship and it's gone. Now, look at this other big black brother with a championship. That's gone too. Jeez, D-Dub in a review your life. What's your point, you gap tooth bum? People lose belts all the time. Be glad that they won them at all. Well, that's exactly why I'm making this video, actually. To promote the question, why? With the short answer being, these are multimillionaires booking their own shows. I like to take a jab at this topic that barely has an essay format on this platform, which is black wrestling in the modern era. Ron Simmons, The Rock, Ron Keelans. What do all of these men have in common? Well, besides two being named Ron, these three guys are the first black world champions of 3 different promotions. The trigger was pulled on them and the time was right. Everyone rejoiced and the message was sent. Anyone and everyone should be able to win this title. So, why are y'all still gripping on them things like we can't have them? Alright, fine, whatever. That's cool. A champion is only as good as the person holding it anyway. So in that case, can you at least give us the chance at being the face of your damn company? Come on, pretty please? We'll accept it, but that really doesn't count. We'll accept it, but that really doesn't count. Oh, come on now, that's just about the same as the first picture. Look, Samoans are cool and all, so cool in the fact that most kinfolk are willing to give them the N-word pass because it just feels right.
You must be sleeping under a rock or something, man.
But as far as representation goes, I'm looking for some bona fide, no doubt about it Negroes over the past decade who could carry a company. Former WWE superstar as of recording this, Sasha Banks comes to mind, but every time she defended herself, she got told to stay in her place. Bianca Belair is a rising sensation just off the gimmick alone, so this might just be the answer. Good on you, Triple H. It almost makes me forget about the Booker T promo 2 decades ago.
Somebody like you doesn't get to be a world champion.
Almost. I actually find it amazing to this day that this company ended up Uncle Tom and my boy Booker T.
Shawn Michaels isn't exactly a fan of our kind.
The amount of times he's been apologist of all the things they've done to his character.
Keep it up, my nigga. Tell me he didn't just say that.
It's some true brainwashing activity.
Thanks for coming. Oh, and by the way, Book, you're fired. That was just an example of what control is and who has the control in this situation.
Either that or he's just old and doesn't care anymore.
Penelope Ford, I've never seen her. I don't know which one is Penelope.
Compared to the growing women demographic for black stars, the males are certainly in second place due to the fact that the count for the opposite race is significantly higher, or as I like to simply quote it as, white is the default.
If you're not Caucasian, then leave. Mark Henry. I'm sorry, I don't make the rules around here.
Now, I like to argue that at this point, it started to get a little ridiculous. Ever since I was born, I saw the iconic shift of what black teens and adults were watching wrestling, and it wasn't for the same reason I was. But nonetheless, it shows that the demo is there.
Wrestling is for niggas! Never forget!
Everybody just gotta accept it. I didn't see any white boys actively thrust into Jeff Hardy's interest with him like we was. We didn't have no shame. We still don't. Most viral videos includes us doing bullshit like this. Don't try this at home, my ass. Now, black wrestling community aside, you can tell that the youth is looking forward to make their marks within the wrestling industry. And people around my age is debuting left and right within indie companies, having the most intricate movesets and whatnot, proving to me that the future is bright for certain. Now, here's how we keep it bright. These two topics I'm gonna cover could be deemed quite sensitive to those in the industry, and as a fellow wrestler in training, I don't want to step on any toes. So I would love to do a part 2 of this video if need be. That being said, let's talk about gimmicks and promos. Arguably the most important parts of being a pro wrestler on television. The common man would say, isn't being a good wrestler the important part? And I can truthfully say, nah. Although there are clips among clips of people doing the most outrageous stuff in the ring to draw reaction, if they kick out at 2, what's the point? Especially when a guy like Ultimate Warrior, who only had 3 moves, can simply splash your back and fill an arena. In order to draw a crowd, you gotta either make them care about you or the storyline that you're included in. If you can't do either, you're gonna get stagnated within the roster with the rest of the good wrestlers with nothing to do. Now, on the topic of African Americans in this situation, it feels as though afterthoughts are always in play depending on the booker. It seems as though Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and everyone who ever ran TNA, like seriously, Bobby Lashley literally had all the titles at one point, has a good head on their shoulders, giving us a fighting chance. But Vince McMahon back then and Tony Khan now are commonly looked at with a raised eyebrow on this topic. For Vince, jeez, I got a list. In 2003, going back to that Booker T promo, he ended up losing that WrestleMania in a racism storyline. The good guy lost a racism storyline. 2004, Big Matt Shelton is continuously put in main event matches with no payoff. 2006, a stereotypical tag team featuring black men called Cryme Tyme makes a debut. 2007, the tag team in question will proceed to never win the tag team titles ever, even though it was literally given to everyone else. 2009, Kofi Kingston had a big push while feuding with Randy Orton, but then they said never mind, it killed us momentum. 2010, they proceeded to break up and fire one of the members of Cryme Tyme, leaving the other one to wander in booking limbo for years until they realized he was still there. There's more, but you get it. Just a bunch of why'd you do that type of decisions, you know. I personally drew the line when they called up the wrestler named Keith Lee, whose gimmick was that he's big and also athletic. He stood a chance face to face with Brock. He gave Roman Reigns a challenge. Man was literally built not to fail. And Vince saw him and said, why you big for? And made him do this. This was peak headassery for me and several other brothers watching this. Now Tony Khan, on the other hand, I can't give too much flack because he's only ran the company for 4 years, and most of his structure was based off of him fantasy booking in his head before then. But there's still a couple of examples I like to go through though. Big Swole was a confusing scenario to watch live all the way through because they built her up right only to feed her to Britt Baker. Then she just disappeared like she wasn't the top 3 females in that company. Tony went on to make things worse by mentioning she wasn't very good to begin with, which caused another black wrestler, Leo Rush, to leave as well. But on a good note, he decided to lock in all the way on the build-up for Jade Cargill. Giving a black female wrestler a win streak for 3 years is insane and unheard of to this date. Tony protected her so hard that WWE eventually said, we want some of that too. Private Party being the first to defeat the Young Bucks was quite a pivotal moment for that team, only for them to never see tag team gold at this point. Many could write off the criticism due to injuries, but nah, that didn't happen till like 2 years in. They had time. The underutilization of Sonny Kiss is probably the most disappointing because it proves that representation in wrestling is still not quite there yet. Same goes for Nyla Rose. Treated like afterthoughts and inserted into nothing angles. Doomed from the start. Jonathan Gresham wasn't an official AEW talent, but I bring him up because he was confronted by Tony himself asking what his gimmick was, and Jonathan was offended by it, wondering why he needed one in the first place. Now, I'm not choosing sides on this topic, but Gresham asking why he needs a gimmick in wrestling is exactly what's wrong with wrestling today. And Tony is in the wrong too for even asking, considering that he has multiple talent without gimmicks that he pushes heavily. So why was that a problem in the first place? Will Hobbs was my biggest interest when he first arrived and attacked Cody. I was immediately quickly, like put the title on him now. But alas, they had different plans. Faction after faction, they were fumbling him hard. The only storyline they gave a damn about was when he turned on Ricky and destroyed him, only for Ricky to win the next week. Like, who's telling Tony that these are good ideas? Damn. When I saw Ricky Starks for the first time, I immediately thought what everyone else did. LOL, it's Tiny Rock. But I can confirm to you that I was only saying it because of the way he dresses and carried himself. Other than that, he's really his own man. Now, compared to everyone else I just mentioned, I truly believe we'll see Ricky with the world title at the end of next year because he's a promising talent. He's charismatic. He has the look, the ring work to back it up. Promos, however, someone recently mentioned to me that he has a bad habit of not letting his words breathe with the crowd after certain deliveries.
Well, Maxi Pad, I think it's pretty... I should have expected a fifth-rate Roddy Piper. I should have expected a fifth-rate Roddy Piper wannabe to come out here and try to steal the spotlight. Oh, you trashed the city. Oh, you trashed the people. Hey, how much more stick do you got? Because the low-hanging fruit is running dry, partner. Now,
like, slow down, man. You got him, you got him. And last but not least, we have Swerve Strickland, who currently is on top of his game right now. I would have mentioned Keith Lee, the wrestler, here too, but I have no idea what's going on with that man as of late. But with Strickland, it seems as though most of the stuff I've seen with him has been his ideas. Like bringing Rick Ross in for a storyline, only his black ass would come up with something like that.
you a big motherfucker.
Strickland went through multiple storyline limbos that ultimately led to nothing. But certainly, as I'm recording this, he has a feud with former champion Adam Page, which is super promising for him right now since he's been going viral alongside his little dancing man Prince Nana and dropping bombshell promos like these.
If I would have got the opportunities that you've gotten a year ago, I'd be the first black AEW world champion by now.
Which leads me into my next topic, pulling the trigger. If they don't lock in on Swerve's momentum right now, this will be yet another example of Tony dropping the ball. And I ain't talking about giving him any secondary title either. That world championship would definitely solidify him as a top heel. But unfortunately, the worst part is, MJF is not letting that title go until probably January due to the storyline he's involved in, which would definitely kill the momentum of Swerve by that time. Kofi Mania was a whirlwind of emotions for me because I personally believed that they should have just locked in at the initial chamber leading into that feud with Bryan. In theory, it makes sense on why he lost that match, but I don't see it hurting the product if he would have won that match, which could have led into a good "there was a fluke" storyline leading into Mania for him to retain, rather than Vince coming out and telling Kofi he needs to earn it for 2 months. Him winning in general was still super important, not the afterthought of his run afterwards though. Big E getting the title is a good example of pulling the trigger, but at a bad time. Beating Bobby Lashley for it before he could be seen as a threat, they had this
Big black nigga in the icy watch.
Win the world title twice by convenience instead of with his brute strength. Do I have to show you the TNA picture again? The last example that I can think of at this time would have to be AEW tag team The Acclaim, who literally got themselves over with the fans naturally due to the microphone antics in their crowd play. The trigger not being pulled on them made everyone look stupid in my opinion. They had a match at a pay-per-view against Keith Lee, the wrestler, and Swerve, where the crowd saw nothing but stars in their eyes for them to win it. But they simply didn't for some reason, even though the team they were facing couldn't even get along. And then the same night at the press conference, Tony said, "Don't worry guys, they'll win next time," which they did, clean, on a regular TV episode. Which begs the question, Why didn't you just do this in the first place? Why put us through this 50-50 booking with talent that the crowd is vocal about? I know the reps got mics in their ears. Just call it damn audible next time when something seems off about your original idea. They're professionals. They'll figure it out. Anyway, the Acclaimed is doing just fine now, by the way. That was just something I needed to get off my chest. At the end of the day, these aren't complaints. These are cries for change. I was inspired to make this video after seeing the wall of replies of Jay Cargill being signed to the WWE via ESPN. Oh boy, put her in Bobby Lashley's team immediately, or book her against Bianca right now. That's a must-see match, making it very obvious that they saw nothing but her skin. And we need to get out of that, man. Shelton Benjamin should have been as big of a star as Brock. These all-black factions need to be stopped, and it shouldn't be a taboo topic to get an African-American wrestler creative control in their contract. Because I'm like 60% sure that none of them do. I know Titus O'Neil is complacent on how he's been treated, and he owns his own school now. R-Truth is literally Vince's best friend because he's able to make him laugh. So he's guaranteed to retire wealthy, despite his in-ring character never being taken seriously. And I'm quite certain that Scorpio Sky is aware that Tony Khan gave up on him. Because at the end of the day, it's just a job, right? To my subscribers giving this video a chance, let me tell you, in my 26 years of living, I remember there not being many black cartoons growing up. And now that I'm older, there are several now, defaulting the term black cartoons to just cartoons. And I'm trying to see the wrestling industry do that too. Here in America, representation is one thing, but normalizing it is another. Amen.